Let's take a look now, and we want to give you some really big tips when it comes to finding the land. Now, finding the land is one of the highest key result areas you can possibly focus on, and this is possibly focus on of the process. We had someone in the VIP session was talking about, well, what about the money, and do I need to find a deal? We said, look, don't worry about the money now, just focus on the piece of land first. And as long as you get a great piece of land in a great area, a great scheme, the money will come to it. The money is actually the easier part. Even though you might think it's the more difficult part, it's actually more easier than it is finding the land. So finding the land is one of your highest key result areas. There's multiple ways to find land, and there is really big opportunity even in your local area or very close to your local area. Now, I typically, unless I'm joint venturing with somebody, I typically don't want to travel too far. I don't want to spend my time on a motorway, stuck in traffic on the M25 or the M6 or the M4. So typically, I like to find plots of land within about 30 to 60 minutes of where I live. Ideally 30 minutes. Now, I have got plots like Maidenhead I'm doing now, the 26 units. Okay, that's in Maidenhead. It's a 90-minute journey, but I only need to go there once every 2 or 3 months. And we're looking at around about £2 million profit. So, okay, I'm happy to do that, right? But ideally, you want to invest, and I know you're very much the same, and the people on the boot camp, everyone pretty much invests very close to where they live, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I tend to stay 30 minutes maximum if I'm going to be a bit hands-on. And similar to Liam, you know, we did an office to 39 apartments. That was 2.5 hours away in Harwich, and that was just a once-a-month site visit. So 30 minutes, you know, as an ideal measure, but no more than about 60 minutes, because if you're hands-on and you're going to be going site backwards and forwards each day, that's a lot of time to keep going over over sort of 9 to 12 months. But what could you be doing with that time? You could be finding your second deal or your third deal. So you've really got to change your mindset now, as you know, there's no more better saying than time is money. You know, rather than spending 8 hours a day doing jobs for customers on sort of £200 a day, you could be spending 8 hours out there looking for land, you know, making 250, 500, £1 million. You know, so that's the opportunity cost when you go back to work.
And this might not be doable in the first year, but certainly as you go into year 2, if you want to have that mobile laptop lifestyle business where you can do this from a beach, on an island, in Dubai, Marbella, you can. We do this. So we travel the world, we do lots of fishing, we have great holidays, and as long as you've got an internet connection and you've got Zoom and WhatsApp, and you've got your team in the UK, you can then start to do this from anywhere in the world. There's actually over 23 ways to find land, right? 23 ways. You've got Rightmove, estate agents, Plot Finder, Gumtree. You've got existing plot owners. You've got land sourcing software sites, Estate Gazette, planning. There's just so many, isn't there? And people think it's difficult to find land. Yeah, if you are just focusing in on Rightmove, then it may be more difficult, right? It might be more difficult. But if you're spending, like I mentioned this morning, 70% of your time building new relationships and focusing in on the first part of the blueprint, which is finding the deal, it really won't take you long. That's why Mike, you had that kick up the arse a month ago, and just 4 weeks later, he's got an offer secured. So something which Andy and I are really big on, those of you that are able to work more closely with us, we will push you. You know, it's our job, it's our role as your mentor to push you to do the things that you need to do. And you know, some things might be uncomfortable and you're not quite sure what sort of letter to send out, or what do you say to a vendor when you're sitting in front of them and they've just given me this objection. Well, we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times, So we're able just to pass that knowledge on to you. Now, one of Andy's, more so than mine actually, I do this, I'm really good with agents. Like most of my deals come with agents, but I've got like 4 or 5 agents like in my back pocket, and I really look after them and I make sure they're well looked after, and they bring me the deals before they go on to Rightmove, and I always make sure there's a win-win in for them. So most of my stuff does come from agents. Something that this guy is a master at is direct to vendor. So this is a fantastic way to actually cut out the middleman. And what will happen, you know, there's like 23, 25 ways to find deals, right? Andy said focus in on like 3 at the beginning, and then what you'll probably find is you're like, oh, I don't like that way. Doesn't really fit in with the way I do business, or I really enjoy this way, or I'm not having much with this one. And then what will happen over the next few weeks, literally the next few weeks, is you'll say, well, this is my route to market. And just for me, I've just managed to create amazing relationships with agents. So look, Andy, can you just talk us through direct to vendor? Because I know you and many people on the bootcamp have done this and they've got great results. Why do you like doing this?
Yeah, so a great question. I like doing direct to vendor because it cuts out the middleman. So the middleman being the agent. Because what we found is the agent, once they get in front of the vendor, they can sometimes say, well, look, yeah, your land is worth this much. And to be honest, a lot of agents, I hope there's no estate agents in the room, a lot of agents don't really understand how to value land. They still think it's a third. So a third for the land, a third for the build, and a third profit. That is not the right equation in today's economy, just because of expensive build costs and labour. So the advantage is that you get to the land before it goes on the open market, and then people get in the bidding wars and the price is set way too high. Now we do this by sending out a letter once a month, so it's the same letter, and it's not too much detail in it, but it does say about how we get in touch and how we find the land. And then during about month 3 or 4, because we send it every single month on the same day, that's when you tend to get the phone call. And then the phone call will be like, hi, we've just received your letter, can you tell us a bit more about how you work? And then you arrange a meeting. And then normally at the meeting you spend a bit of time building the rapport. And who's watching me on social media on my current project? Okay, so quite a lot of you. So you want to see the one that we're building, the 5-bed house. Now that bungalow that was originally on there just came from a letter. And the reason we letter dropped that specific house was because as we was driving past our other site, we noticed the grass was getting quite long in the summer. So that says to me either the property's empty or the person is probably elderly and can't get out there. And it just so happened that we dropped a letter through. The very same day, the person rang me, which was this guy's daughter, and she said, look, I've got your letter. I'm interested in selling the house. It's full of asbestos. It's on a septic tank. It's unmortgageable. Are you interested? Now, at that point, most people would be running a mile. I went, sounds perfect. She goes, well, when can you come and visit? I said, well, I'm working up the road. I'll come up there in the next 20 minutes. So I took my son. I don't know if he's here yet. I've got one of my other sons coming in today. So I took my son up there. I said, watch this, mate. This is how you do a deal. And I just went in there and I said, I'm going to get this house for 50 grand. And he's like, 50 grand? I went, yeah, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. But cut a long story short, she did come back to me and said she would sell it to me for 53, I offered 52. She said she'd let me have it for 55 as long as I paid her legal fees. So I come out of there with that for 55 grand from one letter, one 15-minute meeting, and one email back with the offer, and that was the deal done. That place was worth 125 grand in a market when the economy was booming, So whether the market's going up, whether the market's going down, you can still do these deals great. And it's because there was no middleman interfering and she wanted to sell quick. So you've got to understand that vendors are selling for 2 reasons. They either want the money and they want it now, or they want a bigger amount of money and they're prepared to wait. So they're normally selling for speed or certainty. And if you can get behind that vendor's reason for selling, it's as confident as what I went in there with my son. I said, watch this is how you do a deal. And you can walk out almost with a deal done. I've done it multiple times. Some of the guys on the panel have done it just by following that same system. This is what you do, this is what you say, this is exactly what the vendor's going to say, this is how you go back and counter offer.
Yeah, and it's really key. So like I mentioned, most of my stuff has come from agents. It has been more challenging in the last 12, 18 months. Luckily, I've had a good pipeline of projects on the go, so it's not like it's been fine, right? But certainly moving into this, these next 1 or 2 years, I'm going to be doing a lot more direct-to-vendor leafleting as well. And it's great that I then get to work closely with Andy because he's a master at this, and he can give me the guidance and the help on the templates and the letters, because it's not even something I've personally done a lot of, but I know that if I stick closely to Andy, over these next 1 or 2 years, I'll probably end up with a good 7 or 8 direct-to-vendor deals. And again, smaller sites, doesn't have to be huge sites, because there's going to be more vendors coming to the market that are going to need to sell faster because of what's going on in the world.